My people believe that the White Lodge is a place where the spirits that rule man and nature here reside. There is also a legend of a place called the Black Lodge, the shadow self of the White Lodge. The legend says that every spirit must pass through there on the way to perfection. There, you will meet your own shadow self. My people call it the dweller on the threshold.
Welcome to the Rewatchers in the Lodge. We're here to talk about more Twin Peaks. I am Tyler Harris.
I'm Marcus Marinos.
Riley Harris.
I'm Tyler McKinley.
Justin Hammer.
Mitchell is out this week. I didn't hear the exact reason. I think it had something to do with the hot air balloon. I'm not entirely sure. He's a man of the people. I don't know how those are connected at all.
He's out just campaigning for an election he's in through a hot air balloon.
Yeah, he rented I don't know, what's a hot button, what's a low stakes Democratic candidate I could say that he's out campaigning for. Any of them right now? I don't know.
Any of the 700?
Yeah. Anyways. We're here to talk about Twin Peaks, which is always fun. We watched the next 3 episodes of Twin Peaks, so Season 2, Episodes 9, 10, and 11. And Episode 9 originally aired December 1st, 1990. So this episode is probably airing literal hours before I burst forth from my mother's womb into this world.
Wow, that's something else.
Yeah, it really is. That episode is directed by Tim Hunter and written by Mark Frost, Harley Payton, and Robert Engels. Episode 10 aired December 8th, 1990, written by Trisha Brock and directed by Tina Rathborn. And Episode 11 aired December 15th, 1990, written by Barry Pullman and directed by Dwayne Dunham of Halloween Town fame. And to let us know every single thing that happened in these episodes, Tyler has taken the mantle upon himself.
I'm
to
so
let us
nervous. My heart's like beating.
Don't be nervous. We only have a handful of listeners, and none of them actually watch the show, so they're all depending like exclusively on you to tell them what's happening. So go ahead.
Okay, I've never done one of these, and my handwriting's terrible, so I probably will misread some things and stutter a lot and get things wrong. All right, so in Twin Peaks Season 2, Episodes 9 through 11. Open to a slow-mo entourage walk. Arnold gives the details on Maddie's body, all in Dutch. James likes it, so he puts a ring on it. Norma's mom is a bitch about eggs. Andy speaks in tongues, which causes Donna to take Cooper to the bedridden grandma and her magic lynch boy. Psych, a Las Vegas casino urchin is at the door. Gotta get through this. Gives Donna a page from Laura's diary. Can't look at any of you.
You're doing great.
Okay. Laura had the same dream as Cooper. Mike knows the answer is in Cooper's heart. Arnold gets results for barracks? What? For Ben's blood test.
Wait, who's Arnold?
Who's Arnold?
Wait, you mean Albert?
Albert. I literally wrote Arnold. That is Albert. Wow, I'm butchering this. Okay, faster. Okay, Andy and Lucy have an awkward third-party convo before calling Dick. Tajimura has the kind of toes that make Ben Horn drool. That's when he puts it together and gives Catherine into Catherine's blackmail and signs over the estates. Bob Leland creeps on Donna, saved by Harry. Donna and James argue for no reason other than a new plotline. James runs away. Cooper invites the Twin Peaks All-Star team to the bar. That gum comes back into style, and Cooper remembers who killed Laura and gets his ring back. They trick Leland with an old switcheroo, and Bob Leland gives a crazed confession in a very secure cell at a jail. Lucy makes Dick and Andy swear a truce. Smoking Dick sets off... I just realized how bad that sounds. Smoking Dick sets off the fire sprinklers. This is apparently the trigger for Bob going crazy town banana pants. He bashes his head till it bleeds, and Bob leaves Leland's body. Cooper holds Leland and learns of his possession, and he sees Laura right before he dies. Leland, that is. Major Briggs is wherever the fuck he needs to be whenever the fuck he needs to be. They talk philosophy about the nature of Bob. Where is he? Turns out the owls are Bob's halfway homes. Cooper tells Sarah about Leland's death, and Laura's welcoming him to the afterlife. Leland's funeral lunch is a shit show. Donna is doing Donna shit and saying Donna things, old men fighting, Jacoby having no sense of funeral fashion, and the majors of militaries inviting FBI agents to go fishing. Nadine gets admitted to high school. Cooper shoots down Audrey's advances again. Catherine tells Harry how she's... hold on. Catherine tells Harry how she survived off of tuna fish and only came back because she ran out of tuna fish. Andy and Dick have a fatherhood measuring contest on a ladder. Harry gives Cooper a green butt skunk and a merit badge. Cooper says goodbye to the Twin Peaks PD when Canada and his FBI QA bitch Roger show up. Turns out you can't just cross the border for some breaking and entering and kind of kidnapping.
Murder.
Also people died. Also drugs. Bobby wants an interview with Ben Horn. Audrey gets him in the office and is immediately kicked out. Audrey and Bobby go out for a lick. Roger informs that the Mounties... Sorry, my handwriting's so horrible. Roger informs that the Mounties had a sting operation in One-Eyed Jack's, then makes Cooper surrender his gun and badge. Harry tells him to suck it. Nadine yeets a student into fucking orbit. I have like other pages that were written in between, so I had to turn them. I'm like sweating. Cooper wishes to present no defense unless they take him to court. Cooper babbles a bunch of nonsensical gibberish. Nadine wants to double Mike and Ed. A femme fatale with the worst tooth in dental history asks James to look at her undercarriage before her husband gets home. James draws his power from the jukebox. Dick brings a random child to flaunt at Lucy. She's not there, so Dick, Andy, and the kid go on a family outing to the diner. Hawk tells Cooper of the White and Black Lodge, something about the annihilation of souls. A scene that could not be aired today plays, where Dennis, who is now Denise, but has and always will be a pro and a superb DEA agent, arrives. Nadine leg presses 600 pounds and gets invited to join the wrestling team. Josie tells Hank about her shady past. Norma confronts Ernie. Nikki, the trophy child, Dennis the Menace's Dick and Andy. James is invited to a car repair sleepover by Dead Tooth. James gives a theatrical monologue. Ben Horn's home movies are invaded by Hank, who informs him that Jean Reno is the rightful heir to the Canadian brothel. Cooper gets a nonsensical tape from Winder Merle. The Milford wedding is the shit. Denise lets Cooper know she found cocaine residue in his car and tells him about how she found herself and loves being a woman. Cooper and Audrey dance while Andy and Denise dance. Josie sells her soul and servitude to Catherine. But hold the phone, fucker! Andrew is still alive and is plotting with the master of disguise herself, Catherine. I know I missed a page because there's a part where... Leo moves. Okay, Leo moves. Norma's mom is MT Wentz and gives Norma's diner a shitty review. Hank and Ernie, the professor, make a $125,000 deal with Jean Reno. The Canadian Mountie is working with John. They plan to plant cocaine in Cooper's car. Josie returns to Harry, all beat half to death. Where we, normal people, would see an injured woman, Harry sees an opportunity to get physical. Cooper and Major Briggs discuss Bob while making s'mores. Briggs brings up something called the White Lodge. Cooper loves pissing outside and takes the opportunity to do so. While away, Briggs is taken by a white light. James is riding in a rebellious manner. Briggs' wife isn't too concerned about his disappearance. Gordon Cole calls and gives his full support to Cooper. With the advice of, let a smile be your umbrella. And that's the...
So just insert that information where it makes sense in the last little
Put
bit.
it right in the middle. I like to memento my my summaries.
Twin Peaks is too easy. I need it.
Guys, I am drenched in
Non-linear.
sweat. I am so sweaty just from reading my notes and fucking up so bad.
I mean, you covered everything. I can't think that was,
I
now
have
you know.
so
No,
much
it's great.
respect for you and Mitchell now for doing that all the time so seamlessly. Whew, all right.
All right. Well, let's do this.
Let's.
We're on the. I feel like we're straddling the Twin Peaks here. Between the end of something and the beginning of something else. So let's go ahead and just kind of close out the soft. We'll call it the soft ending of the Laura Palmer saga. The crime is now quote unquote solved, right? So let's talk a little bit about the first episode we watched, episode 9. One of the things we talked about off mic, and I definitely want to bring up here, is in the first 2 scenes of this episode, some very bold and very uninformed cinematography choices are made.
I think the term is reaching.
Yes. So the first scene where it's just between all the FBI agents, just those upshots are so bizarre. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't it set people on opposing like angles? So it's like in the like left shot, you'd have like a 45-degree angle going from the top left to the bottom right, and then the other one is a 45-degree angle from the bottom right to the top, or bottom left to the top right.
I think every single shot in that is a Dutch angle.
Yes, yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
Which is weird because there's like the information I feel like conveyed in that scene would trump any like distracting visuals I would want to put over it at that point. Because it's like Cooper being like, okay, we're about to do this. Like we're like right there. And Albert like gives him this thing. He's like, hey, listen, I give you some shit for doing weird stuff all the time, but whatever mushrooms you need to eat, or like, I don't know,
Go for it.
yeah,
Go for
whatever
it.
dwarves you need to dance with, now is the time. But yeah, I was so distracted by just the fucking angles of those shots are
Because
so
I think
bizarre.
the dwarf, he actually became a cameraman in this season.
That's supposed to represent the literal perspective of the dwarf from the Red Room.
Yeah, he like
Apparently a dwarf
he was
missing
looking
a
for
leg,
work.
though.
Yeah.
Got a lot of those low angles. I will say, however, there were some weird choices, but there were some interesting things they did with the cinematography
sure,
and
yeah,
the
let's talk about it,
editing
yeah.
in this episode that I really liked. I
Yeah.
thought they were really cool.
What are some of those? Because that, honestly, this is like the biggest thing. It happens in I think maybe even the bigger victim of this cinematography is the scene between Norma and her mom, because that's a scene that doesn't need to be weird at all. And they're just like, we're going to shoot from a ladder 6 feet above you and behind you, and then we're going to lay on the ground in front of you to get your side of the conversation. Like, it's so bizarre. But yeah, let's, what are some of the things you liked about this episode for sure?
The scene where they finally gather everybody in at the roadhouse,
Yeah.
and you have all of these possible suspects for Laura's murder, and when everything is kind of revealed to Coop, there are some interesting things that happen where the giant shows up and he gives him the ring, and I don't know, just kind of how they're cutting to each of the suspects. I don't know, I thought it was super cool.
Yeah,
I thought it was fun.
I think the shutter speed is also like turned way down, like the lightning strikes and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like really weird, and it gives this weird feel to it. It's cool.
Yeah, I love the lightning strikes because they're so unnatural. Like, the lighting for them is so unnatural.
It's
and
like lightning was striking in the room.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I like about it, is it's like, it's so present and like if like so just all encompassing in that scene. It just takes it over. It's really great. But yeah, there's a couple other moments too that I want to talk to as we get to where they do some weird, cool things. But yeah, so let's let's talk about James and Donna in this episode real quick. All right, let's move on. No, I do want to bring this in front of everyone because I'm not sure if I'm just reading into this, but they had sex last night, right?
No, that's what I thought was implied.
Yeah.
But then he pulls out the ring, and I'm like, oh, did I miss something last episode? Did he propose? Because if he just proposed right there, he did it in the worst fucking way possible. Like, what? I don't even remember what he says. I was just like...
Nothing is really said, so it's like, did he propose? Is it like a pre-engagement ring?
Well, here's the thing. I think he was showing her the ring. That ring is for his motorcycle. And now he's in quite the predicament because a human woman thinks that he wants to marry her.
Lady at the jewelry store.
I gotta go.
Big hands.
Big hands.
So
just
weird.
huge fucking hands, but fits perfectly on you.
What a weird thing.
It doesn't he say like I just want to be with you all the time, and that's why he gave it to her? Like,
I was like,
doesn't
oh,
make
is
any
that
sense.
is that the proposal? Him just saying that? I
Yeah,
was so confused.
Yeah,
It's
definitely. Definitely is not up to speed on current courtship practices. This James fellow. But anyway, so they have this conversation. Are they at the diner in that scene? I can't remember. Are they in a weird? I feel like they're in a much
feel like
darker
it's-
place.
yeah, it's
but
like
they
a
are in a
weird-
diner.
like the back corner of
I
the
just
diner.
realized
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
It's bizarre.
I thought that scene
Yeah.
took place somewhere else, but the lighting is significantly different. Like,
Right.
it looked like they were in, like, an old saloon that had no power.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, we're back
Were they
in
at
the
like the
double R.
Roadhouse in the daytime or something?
Well, because I
don't know
feel
where
like
they were.
right after that
Yeah.
is them seeing Andy having one of his
Yeah.
episodes. Apparently.
Yeah. Oh, did I miss reading that shit?
Oh, I
I'm
forgot
pretty sure
about
you
that
did.
as well.
I did read that?
I
Okay.
think so. Yeah.
Because I wrote it down, I remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like his J'ai un âme solitaire. Like he gets it right once, I think. I think he says it correctly once. And then kind of lets up this information about the suicide, Harold Smith's suicide. But yeah, that's a weird thing. The Andy stuff, I love him. He's a good dude. It's so weird sometimes, though.
Yeah.
Because I felt like he was saying it to try to figure out what it meant, and then he was like, "Oh, this is what it means," and I was like, "Then why are you just repeating it
Yeah.
all the time?"
He wasn't trying to figure it out. He just liked the way it fit in his mouth.
Yeah.
Like,
I
he
think it's
just
going to be
liked
his
it.
mantra from now on. I think he's like, you know what? I get it. I get it, you know?
Trying to show Lucy how much of a good father he'd be to be able to speak French.
Yeah, I'm a lonely soul. Please let me be the dad of your baby.
I was very surprised, though, when Lucy and Andy finally had like an upfront, pretty frank conversation about everything. Because they've kind of just been like skirting around the subject, and now they're like, let's talk about the baby. And I was like, oh, finally.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that takes place in front of a complete stranger too.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, first you told me you didn't have any sperms, and then you said your sperms were back. Like, the guy's like, the hell is going on? I'm a sprinkler repairman. He's apparently not very good at his job. Well, I guess he's a
Which
fine.
is a metaphor for the repair that happened on his sprinkler.
Right.
And is a foreshadowing to the sprinklers later. It's all
Yeah,
connected.
That's true.
So
I didn't
let's
even
go.
connect that.
Yeah, let's finish out the Lucy stuff because there's not a whole lot of it. But yeah, so basically one of my favorite parts of that too is right after that conversation, Andy's like, I'm gonna call Dick. And Lucy is just like so into it. Like extremely into what Andy's about to do. And he calls up and he's so authoritative and he's like, we need to talk. Whenever you're free, like it could be after work, it could be like I don't know, like I go to bed pretty early, but I could stay up late. Like that's basically what he says to Dick.
And Lucy immediately loses interest.
Yeah, yeah. And then basically towards the end of the episode, they have that meeting with Lucy, Andy, and Dick.
The literal triangle that's formed in the ladder and everything.
Yeah, it's so. But so they have this conversation in an interrogation room or something like.
Yeah,
where
I'm pretty sure it's the same room that Waldo was shot in.
Oh, it has to be. It has to be. That's Lucy's like favorite. She goes there when she needs to feel her feelings now. But I will say they're like sometimes in Twin Peaks jokes happen and I'm like, that's a joke. I don't get it though. Like when Dick is like, Andy, do you have a light? And he's like, just like, no.
Yeah.
It's like, and then Dick just pulls out a lighter and lights his own cigarette.
Half a second later, like he had it in his pocket. He was ready to.
I'm glad I'm not the
switch
only one that
immediately.
didn't understand.
Yeah. It's such a bizarre. It's such a weird thing. It's like I don't get it. I know it's like structured exactly like a joke, but it's just there's just nothing funny about it. So it's good writing, I think. I don't know. It's structurally sound at
The
least.
fact that you don't get it means it's good writing.
Right, exactly. So yeah, and basically she gives them this ultimatum of like, listen, they're gonna do this blood test on the baby, but they can't do it till it's born, and so you guys are gonna have to do like a decathlon while I'm pregnant, and whoever sticks around and then finds out they're the dad,
Which is like a whole plot of another movie.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
This whole thing is ridiculous. And it's like,
they could have
just stay your own apartments and don't talk to each other, and then we'll
Yeah.
find this out later. Like,
yeah, they could have spun this off into a daytime Twin Peaks series, which I don't know why they didn't do. But yeah, so that's basically the town stuff. The rest of this is Cooper, and the Leland stuff. So after hearing Broken Record Andy just going on about Harold Smith at the diner, Donna goes and talks to Cooper and tells him about the Tremonts, and then they go to the Tremonts' house. Tremonts are not there. Well, she is named Tremont, right?
yeah, she is.
Yeah.
She's like her, or supposedly her daughter. Like, it's not really like said. It's just
Donna thinks it's her daughter, but she's like, listen, my mom's dead and I don't have any kids, so I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, oh, wait, you're Donna Hayward? Oh, I have a letter for you from Harold Smith, presumably.
back to watching the
patient
Powerball.
Yeah, yes. But I do love... so this is one of those sections of this episode I really love is... Donna reads the page from Laura's diary, which is basically like, I had this dream, which is the same dream that Cooper had. And during that whole thing, like, you see the red room, but Cooper's face is like not cross dissolved, but like transparent over the top of it is just a slow zoom on his face as you see the red room and you see the dwarf dancing, and then you get this close up of Donna's mouth reading, and they're all like really weird choices, but it's like it's very Twin Peaks. Like it fits, and it's like it is this really surreal and like connecting shot that kind of like brings all these threads together while letting you like see multiple things. Like you're still seeing the real world, and then you're seeing the dream. It's so cool. Like I love that kind of stuff in Twin Peaks. But yeah, and so then he's like, okay, yep, back on my dream shit. I strayed a little bit. I need to be focused in more on this dream, essentially. And then I'm trying to remember what happens next. If he tries to kill Mike again next, I think that's next, where Dr. Hayward's like, listen, if we don't give him his medicine, he's going to die. And Cooper's like, I've done this before. Like,
And doesn't get a whole lot out of doing that either. It's,
right.
He tells him
You
about the
already
golden
know.
circle. Yeah.
Yeah. You have all the clues you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, we already got everything. And I mean, like, he does, like, at least we know there's some connection between, like, him and the giant and Bob. Like, there's like, oh yeah, we know him.
Right. We know of him, he says, right?
Yeah.
Like,
he's
there's,
known
like,
to us here or something
yeah.
like that. And then tells him, he's like, the answers aren't up here, they're in here.
Right.
Like, you watch too much TV, Mike.
What does he say when he's talking about Mike? He's like, there was a beautiful symmetry or something, the appetite and satisfaction, a golden circle or something. Like, that's what he says. Like, and then Cooper's like, my ring. And he's like, there's more to it. I feel like it's one of those things that I'm like, I feel like there might be more to it than just the ring. But anyways, whatever. It's cool. But yeah.
Can I just point something out?
Please.
Bravo to maybe not. Bravo's kind of a strong word, but
Bravo.
I actually really like that we have a one-armed person who is like shirtless, and we see that he doesn't have an arm like the whole time. Like, I don't know, it just seems like it's very like, obviously I have all my limbs, so that's abnormal for me to see it, and it's a little bit off-putting too, like obviously just like on a visceral level, like oh, that guy doesn't have an arm. And it's kind of cool to see, like, they just go with it. It's just embraced, it's out in the open. It's very I don't know, it feels for like a show from early 90s, like, to just have that on TV is, I don't know, I think it's really cool.
They
just
Development,
go
they
with
blurred
that.
Buster's stump. So
Yeah.
Well, that's one of those things. He is one of my favorite actors in this show because I
me
know
too.
every scene that he's in, he's gonna go. Why he's gonna get there? Like he's gonna give 150%.
Yeah, the Mike side of his performance is like one of my. I mean, the duality of his performance is great, but his Mike moments are like the real powerhouse moments. And yeah, it is weird that before, because I mean that actor has both arms, so like right because
I don't know.
No,
Does he not? He does.
No, I
think that's his actual. Yeah.
That's I'm pretty
because
sure that's
when he's wearing a shirt, it looks like they literally stuffed his arm in his shirt.
I think
like
it does
Jamie
look like that.
Lannister style, like hanging down in front of him
The whole time, I thought like they just put his other arm in his shirt because
I
it looks
thought that
weird.
before, but then when you see him shirtless, you're like,
I don't know how they
holy
would have
shit.
done because he's shirtless a lot in this show.
Yeah, well, I thought they just like maybe like tucked his arm back behind him and then put prosthetics on his shoulder. But maybe this is really incentive because he's actually one-armed. So
no, he is. Yeah,
Huh.
he's actually one
Then
armed.
why does it look so weird when he's got a shirt on?
I don't know. But yeah,
it's I don't know, it's kind of weird because like you see like his shoulder blade is like still like sticking out, and then there's just like no arm beneath that. Like, I don't know, it's just something you're not used to seeing, and I think it's really cool that he's such a prominent part of the show, and we get to see that often.
yeah. Apparently, he lost his arm when he was a teenager, as a result of a car accident.
Now I feel bad.
So, well, and I think it is interesting though. Like, it is one of those things where it's like pretty cool that I don't know. It's one of those things. I don't know if this is true, but I feel like David Lynch is a person too that like if he just liked Al Strobel, he'd be like, man, this guy's a great actor. We should write a character with one arm and like let him be a one-armed dude in the thing, you know, which is pretty rad. But yeah, so that seems great. And then we see the return of the bellhop. We see him in the hallway. Uses a milk metaphor for like, you're getting warmer. You're doing
Gross.
it.
Warm milk.
Yeah, and then I guess the last two scenes really, well, not the last two scenes, but like kind of in leading up to this, Donna goes and visits Leland, which they have a really interesting scene in the Palmer house. And she's wearing Laura's glasses, which I always forget he explicitly calls out. Because I feel like always watching this scene, I'm like, I can't wait to watch the subtle performance of him, like, realizing that those are Laura's glasses. And there is, like, this amazing, like, build-up performance. And then he just, like, do I know where these glasses are from? And she's like, oh, yeah, they're Laura's. And he's like, I'm gonna kill you. Like, just what it feels like.
I mean, it's a really effective scene and would be truly terrifying if I didn't want Donna to die. But the whole time, Katie and I were like, just do it.
Well, and then afterwards, she doesn't go to the police or anything.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't, she tells James, who goes away on his bike, and I'm like, I hope I never see you again.
Oh my gosh, yeah. What a great...
Don't leave me,
James. Gosh.
I did like the music in that scene, though. There was some good music there.
Yeah, there is. There's some...
Look, I'm just trying to appreciate whatever I can about that scene, because I hate them so much.
Yeah, it's
I didn't really understand, like, at all, other than, like, what I said. Like, it legitimately feels like they want these characters to be separated and go, like, on different story paths. And so it's like, we're going to make them fight for things we've already gone over, like things we've already resolved. We're gonna just dig back up and.
I'm not sure when, but soon I want to talk about that because in the back half of this season, in particular, there's a lot of production stuff and some actors or actresses who were kind of difficult to work with that caused the writing staff to kind of change stuff.
Interesting.
And the main one, I guess we can talk about this right now, just to kind of get out of the way, is like Laura Flynn Boyle and Kyle MacLachlan were living together at this point in real life. So Cooper and Donna Hayward. They were like dating. And there was supposed to be an Audrey Cooper thing in this show. But in this episode, they kind of closed the door on that with that scene of Cooper in his room. And or is that this? I think it's in the next episode. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But they kind of closed the door on that. And a lot of it's because Laura Flynn Boyle really did not want that to happen. And
which is
just weird. And
that is
which
so
is like
weird.
I feel like you want to have a job in Hollywood today. Like
it's
no
really
kidding.
bizarre.
Yeah.
So yeah, and because of that, I feel like that's a lot of. I mean, we'll see some more stuff with Audrey, but spoiler alert: the stuff with Audrey doesn't necessarily get that much stronger, honestly, and I think it's a real bummer.
I've been kind of bummed out because she was honestly one of my favorite characters in season 1, and then once she got drugged and kidnapped, ever since then, I mean, she didn't have anything to do that whole time because she was unconscious most of it, and then after that, it's just never been the same, and so it feels like she's done nothing for a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, I would have really loved to see that.
Yeah.
Coop and Audrey. And come on, Donna, you get to make out with James all the time, but you won't let Coop just have a little side action.
You had sex off camera with James.
It's fictional. All right.
Yeah. So there's some more stuff we can kind of talk about along those lines as we see some stuff, but yeah, that's one of the kind of bummers about this season. Is that this show kind of gets thrown into disarray a little bit after this point, but yeah. Anyways, so we finally split up those lovebirds, and then the Roadhouse we talked about a little bit already, but yeah, the gang's all there. You have basically everyone who was ever thought to possibly have killed Laura Palmer. Except for James, I guess he was kind of a suspect for a while.
Well, I don't think Major Briggs was ever a suspect.
That's true.
But technically, he wasn't invited. He just picked up the spiritual.
Yeah, he's like a good guy because he's in
entity of
in a uniform or something. Like,
yeah, he was the psychic piece. Well, that's the thing. Is like he is this connected to something similar to Cooper, right? And he's like. I can't think of anyone else in that room who would see that old man on the side of the road and be like, definitely pick that guy up and take him where he needs to go.
See an old man dressed like that, just walking in the middle of the wooded road. You're probably gonna wonder at least.
He's a ghost.
Well, yeah,
I'd be like, see you later.
He had to legitimately pick up someone who's probably not human and bring him to this thing.
Wait, was James there at the Roadhouse?
No. He
okay.
leaves. Yeah.
Oh, okay, right.
Riding his bike.
Yeah, it's me in the open road.
Just turn off my headlights in the dark and go full speed like a fucking idiot.
Good, go for it.
So yeah, but then
do that more often.
The giant appears. Cooper has a moment with him. We see the shot that Peter Jackson stole for Fellowship of the Ring. Which did anyone else think that? It's like that.
I did, yeah.
Down,
yep.
like just
yep.
Yeah, completely down shot. Just reminds me of Frodo in.
It's cool. It's way cool. Like
the
giant's hand fades away, the ring just falls. Like Coop's having these flashbacks of like the Red Room. It's so well done.
It's really good.
It's so sick.
And then Cooper knows that it's Leland. They pull a little sneaky on him and are like, Ben Horn, you old boy. Which is another thing. If they didn't know it was Leland before that, man, the way that Leland behaves at the jail with the supposed murderer of his daughter and be like, listen, Ben, we'll figure this out. Like,
yeah,
that's true. I didn't even think of that. I was just like, what are they gonna do?
Yeah,
but yeah.
That's a huge red flag if you're, just stoked on representing the murderer of your own daughter at trial. But they put him in that room. Ray Wise gives just a great Great
He's so
performance.
good.
I am gonna miss him so much because he is so good.
Yeah, he's really great. That interrogation scene I love when they're like, "Did you kill Laura Palmer?" And he's like, "Arr, arr, arr." That's a yes. Like, what what a fucking weird thing is going on?
I mean, who else do we know that does that?
Yeah.
Bobby
and
Bob. I'm thinking I'm still on that whole thing.
But yeah, that whole scene, like that whole conversation they have, there's some interesting revelations, I feel like, around Leland that we can explore a little bit, that are things that I don't know if they're confirmed or true, but it kind of would make sense in the show. There's some things that I'm not sure I'm totally on board with this episode, kind of based on where the show goes, and maybe we can talk about those again, particularly after we watch Firewalk with Me. But yeah, they're pretty upfront about, like, Leland didn't know what was going on, but he will once Bob leaves, you know? And yeah, let's talk about, does anyone else have anything about the interrogation scene itself, like where they're talking to him before they leave or anything?
No, Bob is very forward of, like, who he is, what he's done,
right?
And like isn't trying to, like, seems like it'd be safe for him just to pretend to be Leland,
right,
and then leave without saying anything. But whether it's arrogance or he likes inflicting uncomfort and fear into people, like they said he feeds off of, he's just like, "Yep, I'm Bob. I did it, and I'm out of here."
Yeah,
and yeah, it's interesting to see Leland in full Bob mode.
Yeah,
where he's not. It's not like him pretending to be Leland or him fighting against this. He's just full throttle.
Yeah.
He does a great job.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There's like that moment where he's just like laughing and his face is kind of tilted down. He's looking out of the top of his eye, just like laughing and stuff, and just sweating profusely is like such a great image and such a great performance. It's so good. Ray Wise is awesome. So basically they go out in the hall. Truman's like, "Listen, we can't use your dream as evidence, so let's, find out some more stuff." They have the interrogation, and then they hear, like, Bob quotes the two magicians chant out between two worlds, whatever, Firewalk with Me. And then Dick smokes the fire alarm on.
Yeah.
There's smoke coming from Dick.
Yes. It comes out of Dick and into the air, sets off the sprinklers, which
means Dick's the father.
that was the equivalent of the Maury Povich test that they do in TVs. And Bob just throws Leland against the door over and over. And I'm still alarmed always when I watch this episode, and I'm like, and they open the door and like Leland's just on the floor, and I'm like, oh yeah, they don't show as much. And then they close the door and it's just like blood and hair stuck to the like edge of the window. I'm like, oh God, it's so brutal. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about Leland's kind of final words before he shuffles off this mortal coil. Did you guys have any thoughts or anything surrounding kind of that stuff?
So I have a quick question.
Yeah.
As soon as they interrogate Leland, they go out of the room and then they kind of discuss a little bit more of the evidence instead of just kind of Cooper's guesses or his theories. And they start talking about the letters they find under the fingernails,
right? And
how it was spelling Robert, Bob, right? But I kind of didn't understand why Bob was leading them to himself, or was that kind of Leland's way of like subconsciously trying to lead everyone in that direction? I kind of didn't understand that.
That's a good question, because I feel like there's a lot of pieces that go into that, and they kind of break those down in this episode. They talk about Mike being like the people that Bob possesses or whatever are his children. The people who lived who were supposedly in the cabin next to Leland Palmer growing up were the Robertsons, son of Robert.
Right.
He was spelling out Robert. So they kind of like tie all these things together. I don't know. I think it's one of those things you have to, it depends on how you think of Bob, I guess, is like, is that him leaving a calling card? Because he knows even if he does get caught, he'll just eject from whoever he's in and go wander around or whatever he does. Yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? It's like,
I mean, we talked a little bit last time how I was wondering if it was a subconscious thing of Leland trying to hint at it, but I don't know, you describing that, I feel like it's, and from what we saw in this episode, what we just talked about of Bob being like, yep, I'm responsible and I love it. It seems much more likely to me that it's him just being like, I don't know, just kind of flaunting it. And
it's a game. It's something like that. Yeah. So in Leland has this whole kind of monologue as he's dying where he realizes that he's killed his daughter. And Cooper kind of guides him into the afterlife in some way. One of the things that Leland talks about is Bob being inside of him, like Bob being this presence inside of him, and talks about how that happened when he was young. The last couple times I've seen this, I've kind of read that as the idea that Leland was abused when he was younger in the same way that he abuses Laura. And that is, I don't know. I don't want to get like too in depth on this, but I think it is like an important aspect of Laura Palmer's story in particular is the abuse that she suffered at the hands of her father, and the idea that her father possibly suffered similar abuse.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think that's a very reasonable theory.
Because it just, I feel like adds another level to that, that grounds this show in another disturbing and frightening way for me, at least.
I mean, yeah, and you can definitely look at it as, I don't know how deep you want to go into this, but in the following scene where the crew is all out in the woods and Briggs is just there, and they're discussing, you know, the potential reality of Bob, if this is a real being that they need to worry about, and then Arnold?
Albert.
Why do I keep calling him Arnold? Albert is like, maybe Bob is just the evil things that men do, essentially.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, that could potentially just be like the blanket statement of the metaphorical nature of this show and what it's all about.
Right, yeah.
And that Bob isn't technically real. It really is just like a duality of man thing where, you know, bad things happen to Leland, evil things were done to him, which were kind of a trigger to lead him into whatever reasons or illness it may be, committing more evil.
Yeah, perpetuating
and
that.
Evil just spreads evil, and Bob is that spread of the evil, essentially.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and in that way, this does become just a huge metaphor for the eternal struggle of good versus evil, right? And I guess the idea that humanity falls in this space between these two warring sides, which is interesting. It also, that also feels like a way to, I guess, tie up this stuff and be like, I don't know, we might see more of this, but I don't know how many episodes we have left too. You know what I mean?
It does feel very much like that speech or monologue in particular felt very much like, okay, if we don't do anymore, this is kind of the ending.
Right.
And honestly is a somewhat satisfying way, very very ambiguous, as, you know, Bob's just still out there, but, you know, it wouldn't make sense if he is a metaphor for evil for him to be caught, because it's always there and it's always pervasive. And
right.
I don't know, narratively it's a very satisfying place in my mind for it to end. But obviously it doesn't.
Oh, it is not over. Any closing thoughts on kind of Leland before we move on to what Twin Peaks is now?
Like before he is kind of dying when he's himself again, he kind of talks about Laura and her like experience with those parasites, and like that they kept trying to get her, but she was too strong for them, and so they were like, okay, well, we're just gonna kill you because you won't let us in.
That they wanted her. It was like, So Laura was this. They wanted her for whatever reason. For sure. That's a good thing.
And she was very accepting of her fate, as we know from like the diary.
Right. Yeah. She. Yeah. Yeah. Well. Yes. Yes.
As far as we know, you know.
Yeah. And this, I think this actually does a pretty good job. Rewatching this, I was like, oh man, I just want to go watch Firewalk with Me right now, because you could almost just jump into Firewalk with Me from this point, you know. But there's still some stuff to kind of get into. So, with these next episodes, we have the first time jump, essentially, that we've witnessed. At the beginning of this episode, the title card of 3 days later, we're setting up for Leland's funeral, wake, whatever, and they kind of drop the knowledge. They have that scene with Sarah Palmer where they tell her, like, yeah, listen, you were being, like, Leland was drugging you so you wouldn't know what was going on. They kind of tie up that final loose end, because we've talked about that before, of, like, Sarah, like, what is going on with her? And so they kind of talk about that, and she refuses to take any medication or anything before the funeral so she can be there, can fully be there and everything, which is interesting. And again, just another, I love her performance too. Like,
she's incredible.
She's someone that I wish was in the show a little bit more. But yeah. What do you guys want to talk about?
Can I?
These next
so something interesting I noticed during that scene when Coop was talking to Sarah, which is a great scene. He kind of just lays it all out for her. There's a shot they continue to show, and it's been in multiple episodes. It's the shot where the camera is situated kind of at the bottom of the stairs, looking up at the ceiling fan. And it's something they've showed many, many times, and it's like a weird, it gives you like an eerie feeling. Is that something that will come back in the future, where it'll give us a little more information on why that's something they keep showing?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't want to say anything else. But yes, that will come back. That is a shot that David Lynch set up in the pilot. And so once Twin Peaks returns to David Lynch's hands, there will actually be some more information about that shot.
Good.
In an interesting way. But yeah, it's a great shot. It's like such a memorable shot, and I love it. Like, I feel like we in making shorts and stuff, like I have thought of that shot itself as just an inspiration for like an entire thing, and a tone for something, because it is so striking and so well composed. Like, it's beautiful and terrifying. But yeah, so basically, let's talk about Leland's death party.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, let's close the casket on what you have known as Twin Peaks, and instead let's introduce some new characters, put a bunch of characters that you don't want to see together, having conversations you don't care about. I don't know. That's being presumptuous. I don't care about them.
I was very excited to see Major Briggs invite Cooper to go fishing. I was like, this is a power couple, and I am ready for this fishing trip already. But that was about it. Everything else, I was like, somehow I hate Donna more after every scene she's in.
You have these weird pairings. You have some long moments with Nadine that basically build up to her being like, can people see my underwear in the reflection of my shoes? Like, there's so much setup to that. There's like a minute-long shot of her looking down at her shoes, wiping something off. It's so long, and that's the payoff.
The way Nadine's vocabulary for things that are like hint at a sexual nature make me uncomfortable. How she uses underpants to describe her underwear, how she refers to Mike's butt as buns. It's
nicest buns.
Yeah. If you can vomit out of the pores of your skin, I'm pretty sure I have from Nadine.
Well, and it's such a she talks about everything in such a precious way, and it like, I guess that's done to heighten her like high schoolness, because she probably went to high school like in a time when people I don't know.
It's hard to know like what's just a weird like Twin Peaks choice and what's like, oh, that was smart because that's when she went to high school, and right. I don't even know.
Yeah. Well, let's get the Milfords out of the way really quick. We're introduced to Dougie and Dwayne Milford, who I believe is Dwayne or Dougie the mayor? I can't remember.
So Doug, I think, is the mayor.
Is he? Okay, and he's the one that's getting married to...
Oh, wait.
No, the one that's getting married is the newspaper editor.
One. Yeah. Okay, yeah. That's right. Man, that's dumb.
Yeah.
I just love that they fight at this wake. They fight everywhere. There's not a whole lot going on there. I will say, in the next couple episodes, we're going to see that go to a place that may become one of my favorite plot points of this show, but not because it's good. But yeah, their whole thing, they're basically set up as they've just been in this town forever. They run a bunch of shit, and they're really old, and this one guy gets married all the time.
Yeah.
And everyone lives for those weddings.
I like Doug's like old man laugh. Like he'll make jokes and then laugh to himself like,
I was with the same woman for 50 years. What is he? He's been married 7 times.
It's
like really hot girls.
What does he say about his garden hose not working? Or, I don't remember the joke.
He said, "Oh yeah, that's the end of that line." He's like, "I was married to the same woman for 50 years because I think with my brain and not my garden hose."
It's like seeing a sad, dark future of the Muppets, where one of the heckler guys dies, but the other one's still alive, and he's just like talking to himself.
Absolutely the Statler and Waldorf of Twin Peaks. 100%. Yeah, so all that stuff gets set up and whatever. Nadine goes to high school. As you do with a 35-year-old woman.
Everyone accepts it. Everyone's cool with it. Everyone's cool with her just fucking throwing some guy 30 feet in the air.
That's honestly, like, now that I've heard your summary, like, if I had to describe yeeting to someone, it would be that scene.
Can I show you the scene? Yeah.
Yeah, it's that is an amazing. That stuff's amazing. I love that she's just so into Mike, and she's like. It's funny because she's almost playing out her high school existence again, because she goes up to Donna and is like, "Hey, are you still dating Mike? Because I'm into him," which you imagine might have been exactly what she did in high school with Big Ed. You know what I mean? And Norma. Which she's not weirded out that Ed doesn't go to school.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, he stays home. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and she explains away adultery or like cheating on someone in a very logical fashion. Listen, Ed's at home, Mike's at school. Who's gonna know?
I used to like Nadine. I did. I was like, she's wild. She's fucking throwing people all over the place, like just like squatting 600 pounds. Like she's great, just crushing milkshakes. But once you double cross Ed, you know what? Fuck you. He's been nothing but kind to you. All right.
I kind of cheated on her.
Yeah, he was cheating on her for a long time.
Yeah, but you know what?
He also shot her eye out.
Yeah.
He also kind of drove her to want to kill herself.
Yeah, but you know what?
But also, I'm still with you.
But
shockingly,
fuck her.
We just listed all those things. I'm kind of like,
but you think about like Ed's situation, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like maybe there's an opportunity that I can be with Norma again, but if this psycho Hulk creature finds out, I could be dead.
Yeah, and also Hank, a teleporting assassin man.
Oh, there was a line that Hank said in this where I was like, "Oh, you're right." Where is it? He was talking to Ben. I think it might have been in one of the last episodes. where is it? Anywhere.
So when Ben asked him where he's been.
he's like, look, I have had an absolutely killer schedule. Like, yeah,
midterms are really making me sweat. Yeah, what a. Anyways, so let's kind of talk a little bit about that stuff then. Ben Horn kind of takes a backseat these episodes. We don't see a lot of him. We do see him quote Richard III. Oh yeah, I will say in these 3 episodes we have 2 Shakespeare quotes. One by Major Briggs where he quotes Hamlet talking to Horatio and he's like, "Heaven and earth are stranger than our reckonings," or whatever. I can't remember that line exactly. And then I can't remember. Oh, Ben Horn says, "The winter of our discontent," which is just like a line from Shakespeare you could plug in pretty much anywhere in conversation. So, like, why would you? But they just put it in the script. It's weird. I don't know why they're adding Shakespeare to these scripts at this point. But yeah, he's just like drinking, throwing Bobby Briggs out of his office, which good for him. And getting told by Hank that One-Eyed Jacks is Jean Reno.
So the video he's watching, the home movie he's watching, is that him and his brother, or is that him and Leland as a child? Because if it's not Leland, it makes no fucking sense why he's like having a breakdown watching this. Because his brother is still alive and fine, and
go ahead.
Did not murder his.
I was gonna say, as far as I know, this scene happened after he spoke with Catherine, right, in the jail cell.
Yes, it did.
So
it happened.
For me, I'm like, oh, he's sad because he's gonna lose the hotel, and so he's like watching the groundbreaking ceremony of the hotel.
Okay,
where
that
he's
makes
like a
more
little
sense.
kid, and
I thought it had to do
with
the other child. Mostly, like I thought.
Yeah, no, I
thought the breakdown had to do with that, but I'm an idiot and I should have connected that. Yes,
I think it was more just like now he's signed over everything that he had, presumably from his dad, like their legacy, you would say, or something like that. You know,
he's been through a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a terrible person, but he's been
real
through
piece
a lot.
of shit. Love him,
Ben Horn.
love him.
Fuck you.
Didn't Ben Horn say something about Ed at some point? Fuck that guy.
Ben Horn has treated his wife with nothing but respect and dignity.
He ignored her at dinner, and we haven't seen her since.
Probably killed her.
Yeah, we don't know where she is.
No, she was at the wake.
Oh, was she? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I didn't even know.
What about his
That's
son?
my fault. We haven't seen
Do
Johnny
they ever
Horn in a
come
while
back?
either.
Will they ever come back?
They probably put him in a sandwich and he ate it wrong. I don't know.
So basically, we've got the stuff with Ben. Hank's making moves. He's hanging out with his old friend Ernie, the Professor Niles, who apparently just gets a mountain of money for Jean Reno, gets super drunk, and then Norma's like, "You should go home."
We need $125,000 immediately. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Which, whatever. Honestly, a lot of that stuff doesn't do a whole lot for me at this point.
I mean, how can you not be moved by the fantastic subplot of M.T. Wentz?
Oh God!
What a surprise!
With the huge deal they made about it, and now it's just wrapped up.
Yeah.
And, I assume that's the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's a good assumption. Yes.
a fucking travesty of a storyline.
There are quite a few subplots where I'm like, I could really go without this. It's doing nothing for me.
It gave us an excuse to meet Tajimura, right? And think that maybe it's Wentz.
Tajimura was the red herring of the MT Wentz, so that they could be like, "Oh no, it's way more important."
Gosh.
Yeah. So basically, Bobby's still just there doing dumb stuff. Bobby is getting dumber and dumber, while still going hard in the paint. He's going 100%.
Yeah, he's creating fake tapes by copying and pasting tapes before any audio editing software has been invented yet. Pro Tools and Audition were not even developed sperm cells, and Adobe's. I'm not even gonna get into
Why the fuck do we always go back to sperm? All right.
But he's doing some elaborate shit. I want to hear. I assume we'll get to hear what his tape actually ends up.
Well, the
being.
tape is the
Leo
tape is the Leo thing.
Right.
Yeah. So he just made a copy of it.
Oh, he just
That
made.
he gives to him. Yeah.
I thought
so
he
he's
was
not, constructing a thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought he was trying to make it say something else by rewinding and playing and recording.
So. No, he wasn't home aloneing it.
I was thinking Alvin and the Chipmunks Great Adventuring it, but
but I do love that he's like, his whole plan is like, I'm gonna blackmail Ben Horn so I can get a job in business. It's like, so what are you gonna be doing? I'm going into business.
Why are Bobby and Shelley just always hanging around Leo? Like, if he were in my home, I would just, like, kind of scoot him in the corner, facing the wall. Like, why are we always just, like, hanging around him? Like, I'm going to set this mirror on top of Leo. And, like,
he's a table. Maybe they don't have enough in their house.
Need more surfaces.
I mean, they don't have a wall on the back side of the home.
True, yeah, they have it unfinished. Leo never finished the kitchen of that home. But yeah, that stuff's still weird. Leo moves. That's Leo about moves. It. That's all that happens. They also set up Bobby and Audrey, which, man, I cannot think of a romantic pairing that I give less of a shit about. Oh, wait, yes, I can. Donna and James. But, yeah, anything else
it
with
makes
that
me
stuff?
sad. It makes me so sad because I really wanted that Audrey Cooper thing to, like, come into, like, that was a good chance with how much time we have, how many episodes we have left to really, like, build that bit by bit, make it interesting, and then have it pay off towards the end.
You know what, Tyler? If it makes you feel better, I'm sure there's some erotic fan fiction somewhere that you.
I've written half of it.
Yeah. Let's talk about Dick and Andy, and then let's talk about Denise, and then we'll close out with Coop. So my favorite thing about this is that Dick's play to, like, become the father of this child is to go out and become a big brother to the worst child in the world.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if this child was, like, actually the worst child in the world or if he was accidentally the worst child.
I was so confused because he would do something, like, so devious, but then he would look so, like, concerned, like, oh, I'm so sorry I did that. Like it didn't. I was like, "What is happening? What is?"
If you're trying to play that joke, you would make it obvious that he's not really sorry. But the delivery feels like, "Oh, this kid is genuinely."
He's like, I felt compelled to spin the chair.
Oh my shit, he's Bob.
That's what
I was going to say. It's like Bob just took him over.
Well, and his name is also Little Nicky, which didn't play back then, but they must have known that Adam Sandler was going to make a movie about the son of Satan titled Little Nicky.
Add it to the list of the shared world
yeah,
list.
there it goes.
I think I might exclude that one.
Just put an asterisk next to it. But yeah, that stuff's weird. Again, it's just stuff that feels like the small things from the first season, the small quirks and stuff, are now have to be stretched to fill a full episode of Twin Peaks at this point, and doesn't work for me that much. So let's also talk about the Coop stuff. We can talk about Denise kind of in line with all the Coop stuff. The beginning of this episode, after Leland's wake, Coop's like, yeah, I'm going to take vacation time. I'm going to leave. And they have kind of this touching scene of him leaving. Well, let's talk about him and Truman's, the closest they could get to just a full-on sex scene between Sheriff Truman and Dale Cooper, I feel like, is that scene where he gives him a green butt skunk. And that...
the Bookhouse Boys merit badge.
Yeah, that scene is like... They even, like, kind of charge it with sexual tension. He's like, when those salmon are going upstream, there's only one thing they can think about. Sex. Just this close-up on Cooper looking at this little fly that has been made for him. And, like, it's a great... I love that scene.
I do as well.
I just think that's a funny thing to know about that scene is, like... If you were a fan, if you ever wanted them to be the couple in this show, I feel like this scene is the closest you're gonna get. But there is that moment when he gives them the Bookhouse Boys badge that I think is genuinely touching, and like Cooper seems like he's like on the verge of tears, like you know what I mean? It's like it's a really like great moment, and really does illustrate how much Cooper has come to love these people over the course of 2 weeks. You know, he's not been there long, but yeah, I really like that scene. Any of those goodbyes, like, did you guys want to talk about any of those goodbyes? Because he kind of says goodbye to everyone as he's leaving. which he never actually does. But I like that he tells Hawk, if I ever go missing, I want you to be the person they send to find me. Yeah. But yeah, then we have the introduction. That's my French Canadian accent for the Canadian Mountie that shows
right
up.
in right now. Yeah. You might as well. I mean, all the other accents we got, perfect.
Is that a Renault brother?
Who knows at this
Distant
point?
cousin.
Yeah, just the shot of a man in a trench coat and a Canadian Mountie standing right next to him and being like, "You're suspended from the FBI, Cooper," is like them. It's like, oh, even Cooper's storyline is going to delve into just kind of soap opera-y feeling bullshit of like, it's such a weird thing. I don't know. It's really bizarre.
It is kind of nice though to have like payment for like all these questions we've had in the past, or like Cooper just does whatever the hell he wants basically, or he's along for the ride, and then there's actual consequences here. It's not like it was forgotten by any means, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and for me, I like the plot line. It just feels like even the execution at this point, a Canadian Mountie just shows up. Like if you take him out of that scene, it automatically feels less ridiculous. No offense to any Canadian Mounties listening.
Yeah, fuck you, Canada. You tried to take Cooper from us.
Well, here's the thing. Once we went to One-Eyed Jack's and we saw that he was double-crossing everybody, I was like, oh, that was just like a costume they probably found at One-Eyed Jack's, right? That's
true. That could be true.
It's a fetish thing.
That might not be wrong.
Yeah.
I want to be ravished by Mounties.
Like, we could use this.
But yeah, so we introduced the internal affairs agent whose name I totally forgot.
Roger.
Right? Yes.
Roger.
Yeah. Roger something.
I don't know his last name.
Hardy.
Roger Hardy.
He just sounds like a man who would read a textbook in audio form.
Yes. Yes. And that interrogation, like, Cooper basically owns up to everything, and I feel like that scene is true Cooper fashion. You know what I mean? Like, he's
straight
like, yeah,
to the
I'm
point.
willing to pay the price for whatever I did, but also there's a bunch of bullshit you just said that I didn't do. And and then as he leaves past Sheriff Truman does the Bookhouse Boys like sign.
I'm surprised they weren't like, hey, what the fuck was that?
There's clearly nonverbal communication happening.
And Truman just tells him to shove it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they. And basically, this is all a part of a plot of Jean Renault to kill Cooper for a reason we don't really know, other than just like
Cooper's gonna stay out of his life at this point, like
killing his brothers.
Yeah,
kind of secondhand.
It doesn't really seem like he cares about his brothers.
No, I don't
but it
think
could be
he's
more of like an honor thing. Like, this man killed a member of my family.
Yeah,
my weird cowboy French Canadian code tells me. Gotta kill him.
That's true. That is in the code. Yeah, I forgot about that.
But yeah, anything else? I guess what with Cooper kind of going forward from there? I guess we'll need to talk about his trip with Briggs. But was there anything else before that? Anything in that interrogation or anything that?
There's like a second scene with Roger and then two other random agents.
Oh yeah, and the world's oldest laptop.
Yeah, it's an Apple Mac something.
Yeah,
it is weird looking. He comes in and basically they're like, what is your defense going to be? And he's like, I don't have a defense. God will recognize his own. And then just proceeds to just say the most nonsensical philosophical bullshit I've ever heard in my life. I literally had no idea what was going on that whole scene. I'm like, I feel like they botnicked this scene. They just took previous Cooper lines and hodgepodge them together.
Yeah.
Because I did not, and even Roger's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm with Roger on this one, Coop. I don't know where you're going with this.
Yeah.
And then that's it. He just kind of gets up and leaves.
Yeah. Yeah. He goes on a fishing trip with Major Briggs.
Which is my favorite because they just spent the day fishing. And instead of cooking fish on the fire, they both have marshmallows on a stick.
They didn't catch anything.
Like, these two government
that green butt skunk was terrible and poorly made.
Oh, Coop didn't want to use that. He didn't use it. He's just keeping it.
It's a lapel pin.
He wears it on his suit now
for when he gets to go back to FBI.
These men have seen some shit.
Yeah.
And I just love how it's like, it's just marshmallows on legitimate, like, tree twigs they broke off.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm starting to like Major Briggs even more.
Major Briggs.
He's great.
Yeah.
He reminds me. I have a couple of uncles that he reminds me of.
Oh, yeah?
Who are both like military men.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so exact.
Yeah.
To how they speak and act, but he's also just like a nice guy. You know what I mean?
That honestly, that scene that he has with Bobby, like episodes and episodes ago, where he talks about his dream and like seeing him like living a good life. Like every time I see that, it makes me tear up. Like it's a great scene. And yeah, Major Briggs is such an interesting character, especially because there's so little you know about him, and they just kind of dole out these little pieces of information.
there's just that one random scene early on where he just like loses it and hits Bobby.
Yeah.
And
the cigarette just lands perfectly in the meatloaf.
But like before that and after that, it's been like nothing but like kind, gentle respect. And that was just the moment Major Briggs snapped.
Yeah.
And couldn't take this bastard anymore.
Yeah, Bobby's a little asshole. So.
Yeah. But yeah, so Briggs basically drops this huge breadcrumb of being like, "Have you heard of the White Lodge?" And Cooper's like, "Hold on,
Cooper's got a big
I'll be
problem.
right back."
Hold on.
I just had a dream.
love
I know who killed Laura Palmer. It can wait till morning. I've forgotten. Oh, the White Lodge. I'm gonna go pee. I want to hear when I get back. And he's gone.
Yeah.
Like,
disappears in pretty great fashion. We see some owls again. There's an owl in the tree watching Cooper piss. And then Briggs disappears. Yeah.
Bob's
These
like
owls, man.
watching him pee.
But yeah, so then they talk with the first scene of the next episode is with Mrs. Briggs, and she's
real
like,
quick, did we mention that it's kind of hinted at that Bob now resides in the owls?
No, we didn't. Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, I'm assuming that's the fulfilling of the owls are not what they seem prophecy.
Right.
That in between hosts, Bob kind of uses the owls as a host. At least that's what it seems to be hinting at.
The owls are not what they seem. Like, that's, something like that, for sure. They have that awesome Technicolor owl that flies directly at the camera. So they... Basically, Mrs. Briggs is like, "Yeah, this shit happens. Did it seem like it was work related?" And Cooper's like, "Sure, I don't know.
I still don't know exactly what he does.
Yeah,
but aliens are involved, so yeah."
Yeah. So, anyways, so something happened there. I guess kind of the big things going forward. Denise Bryant. What's the last name?
Denise.
Bryson, yeah.
Yes.
Duchovny.
David Duchovny.
Which is like, if you're going to bring someone in at this point in this show, you get Mulder.
Yeah, let it be him. And, I love that. I love the scene when he first comes in, because we talked about having a one-armed actor in a thing, having a transgender character in a show, while it may not, I mean, by our standards, may not be handled in the perfect way. This was a network show that was on TV, and it's played for a joke for maybe 10 seconds, and then Cooper's just all in. He's just like, "Cool, it's good to see you."
And it's great. It's great. And Denise, my new favorite character. So well done.
So good. Yeah.
I really appreciate that they don't it's a joke for like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Maybe like I remember like Harry makes like one little offhand comment to himself.
Good color on her or something like
that.
Oh
yeah,
that's Hawk.
That's
yeah,
Hawk. I don't remember what Harry says, but and then it's just kind of done.
Yeah.
And now she's just another character in the show, and she's great and charming.
I was surprised because like there's some ways that was handled that couldn't be done today.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think Hawk's line at the end is honestly, I feel like that's in good taste and is actually good writing because is a small town who's probably not used to seeing a transvestite, and so like having, and then his reaction to that I think is actually a very good reaction to that.
It felt more genuine than like
but some like Harry's reactions and stuff, like when she's like, "I'm gonna go down to the hotel," he's like, "They don't know what they're in for." Like, it's like in kind of bad taste and would not be able to fly today. But I was surprised, like with how old this is, how well it actually is done. How like in good taste most of it actually is.
Yeah, and they actually like write a really great character. Like they have that scene at the Milford wedding where Denise Bryant works for the DEA. I guess we should say that. Used to work. I guess they worked closely. I don't know if it was just she always worked with DEA, but when they meet at the Milford wedding, he's like, "Bad news! I found cocaine in your car. I shouldn't help you, but I've been trying to get in touch with my feelings," which is like also like kind of a great like little character thing of like this character's entire life is changing, and they're just like she's just trying to do her best, and like. I don't know. It's really great. And then the whole like kind of origin story for Denise, I think is so just like simple and so well fleshed out. And they just pay, I think, really good service to that character and
without like overcomplicating things.
Yeah.
It's a very simple, like straightforward. And you're like, that's all I need to know.
Yeah. It's really great. And the performance is wonderful. David Duchovny is great.
I feel like
really good in that role.
If this were made in like 2001, this becomes like so much more of something you couldn't show today.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It just blew me away that this is the 90s and this works better than something that would have been made 10 years later. And honestly, I'm surprised I haven't heard anything about this character from anyone involved in that movement at all.
Yeah.
Like, this is like had to have been a groundbreaking character for that community
for sure, especially in the 90s. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, and is a great character and is easily the best new character introduced and is handled particularly well in my opinion. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. I like Denise a lot. She's really fun. But yeah, I mean, anything else with? I guess the last thing we should probably talk about is just Cooper talking to Hawk about the White Lodge, and Hawk kind of lays out the White and Black Lodge a little bit.
It's terrifying.
In the most stereotypical Native American telling a story fashion.
Yes, yeah.
His hand movements.
Yeah.
Like, oh man.
And I feel like this is a lot. This scene in particular, I'm like, this is Mark Frost all over it. Like Mark Frost is so invested in the lore of Twin Peaks, and I feel like he's also way into Carl Jung. Which anytime I ever hear anyone be like the shadow self, I'm like, someone's been reading Jung lately. Like the idea of, we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but this good and evil force, and having to face like a shadow self. But yeah,
all I could think of was Scott Pilgrim.
Yes, yeah, that's a good touchdown.
I hope that's exactly how it plays out too. He meets his shadow self, and we're like, we're pals now.
And they just go for a coffee together.
It's actually a really cool guy.
I'm finally glad we finally got to where we're talking about the White Lodge and the Black Lodge, because I've heard so much about it. I've just heard that reading about Twin Peaks and stuff. Obviously, I don't really know too much about it.
Right.
But I was like, when is this gonna come up? And now we're finally getting into it.
Yeah,
and
there's some stuff there.
Because it seems like this is a big part of it, and I know you've mentioned that this part of season 2 is not your favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Does it get more into those two things in this season, or is that something that really gets into the meat of it in season 3?
No, we'll get there for sure. There's a lot more talk of the Black Lodge for the rest of this season, and also remember. We have one more David Lynch episode left, and it's the series finale of this, where there's a lot of stuff set up, and then...
And is that a 2-hour one?
I believe it might be. I can't remember exactly.
Okay, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, so...
Remind me, how many episodes are in season 2?
22. So we're like halfway through.
Okay.
Exactly, yeah. So we'll be there in a few weeks. But yeah, so that's anything else that you want to talk about in these episodes that you feel like we've missed? We skipped over James's whole bullshit.
Which we don't have to talk about.
Goodness. I just want to say all of James's scenes with this woman.
What did you call her? Dead Tooth?
We're now referring to her as Dead Tooth.
Dead Tooth the pirate.
Which sounds like a Borderlands boss. But anyway, any scene that these two are in feels so much like, oh, this is like a written thing that someone had to memorize and is now performing, and it almost feels like a stage production where it's like, okay, now step forward, spotlight, like it's ridiculous. Like everything from the bar to that garage scene where like Gene's like, sometimes I just turn my lights off and ride, and like it feels so like memorized and forced and bad, and like, and not in a fun campy Twin Peaks way, and just like a this is bad.
Do you mind if I play the jukebox first?
And just like, just nauseating, like supposed to be sexy, which I mean is already ruined so much by that tooth. But
what's funny is I didn't even notice the tooth.
I didn't honestly notice it that much either.
I thought it was a shadow, and then I couldn't stop staring at it. It's like, it's not a shadow.
Yeah, Katie and I, that's like all we could talk about there in that whole scene. We're like anytime like they cut back to her, it was like, oh.
I will say the song that James plays on the jukebox has only appeared one other time in the show, and it's the song that Bobby plays at the Double R Diner right as we're introduced to him, and he's like, I'll see you in my dreams to Norma, and he puts that song on, and it's just blaring. And then like they go outside the diner, and you can still hear the song like so loud. But I'm like, I have such an aggressive sense memory attached to that song that when I heard it, I was like, oh no, it's so bizarre. It's like, I don't know, big band horror house. It's awful. It's
the second season in general, I feel like has had weird music choices.
Yeah.
The one I forgot to mention was at the not the funeral, I guess, but the
luncheon wake
the
thing.
luncheon for Leland. They had like this like swelling synth playing throughout, but then all of a sudden like the jazzy drums would come in. But the synth would still be playing, and you're like, these kind of don't fit together.
Yeah.
And it's very distracting.
Yeah, it really is.
It's the Jacoby of music.
Is there anything else about these episodes you guys want to talk about? Are we like wrapping up?
We skipped all the Josie stuff. I mean, most of it's really boring, and I don't believe her.
Josie and Andrew are back. Josie's back. Andrew's alive.
Yeah, I hate
Josie's now a maid.
Josie.
Oh yeah, Josie's just an indentured servant to Catherine. What the fuck?
Yeah, which it's like, I mean, maybe I'm wrong here, but I'm like, it's clearly another play by Josie. Like, why would you go to Catherine and be like, she literally says like, what do we do now? I don't know.
Yeah.
Then why the hell are you here?
Yeah. It's weird. Twin Peaks is going into a weird place. Like, and I feel like it's you can feel it. You can definitely feel it. So I wanted to close just before we go. The director of season 2, episode 10, Tina Rathborn, in Reflections, kind of in talking about this episode in particular, because it is like a distinct change, and I think it's important to note that even the people working on the show knew. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, and I think that's something we don't think about sometimes when we think critically of shows. Is like, people who make TV shows love TV shows. They love movies. They also know what's good and bad, and they can tell. Anyways, she says, my episode needed to have been an explosion, an unexpected rocket that was launched that would carry us through, and the FBI firing Cooper is definitely not that. It's more about him saying goodbye than it is recommencing from a story standpoint. It didn't feel powerful enough to regenerate the audience's feeling of where's the puzzle. The emotion had gone out of it for me. When I did my episode, I was not very compelled to see the series to the end. Laura's funeral scene. Oh yeah, she also directed the episode with Laura's funeral, which is a great scene. Like that's such an incredible episode. She says Laura's funeral scene was really a huge emotional well, whereas Leland's wake I felt was pretty incidental emotionally. So to me, the two of them aren't in the same realm. The death of Leland carries the same weight as Laura Palmer, yet her funeral was not played up for any humor. The old brothers fighting in the wake sticks out to me as strange, which was a precursor to a lot of the over the top humor. It feels like one of the moments where Twin Peaks changes. But yeah, so it's like, that's another picture that I feel like it's fun to think about as we're going forward, is like, there's a lot of disarray in Twin Peaks production wise at this point. And we'll talk about that more as we go forward. But yeah, thanks for listening. We're going to do recommendations after a short break. So stick around after the music, but if you don't want to hear those, that's cool too. So if you want to talk to us about anything Twin Peaks related, you can email us at rewatchersonthepod@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter at rewatcherspod. Let us know what we missed out on. Anything that you thought was particularly great or weird about these episodes, we love to hear from you. But yeah, so signing off from the Lodge, I'm Tyler Harris.
Marcus Marinos.
Riley Harris.
Tyler McKinley.
Justin Hammer.
See you later in recommendations. Back to share just some quick recommendations for stuff if you need to fill that time between Twin Peaks episodes. Who wants to start? Does anyone have any particular recommendations this week?
I have a really stupid one that I'm not proud of.
Oh boy.
My favorite.
I'm currently watching Love Island UK on Hulu.
No.
It's awful, but I can't stop watching it.
How did you come to this decision?
I had like 3 friends tell me I needed to watch it, and now I'm questioning if they really are my friends.
Okay, so remind me, all I know about Love Island is what I've seen at the gym on the TVs that are playing. And all I understand is that, I don't know, it's just people go on an island to just cheat on each other, cheat on their spouses or something?
I think you're thinking of a different one. This one, they're all like, there's like 6 girls and 6 guys, and they have to like be in couples. But then there will be things where like 2 more people will come in and they'll try to break up the couples. And then if you're not coupled within like 48 hours, then you're out.
So it's high school.
And it's ridiculous. I don't understand it.
They all just blend together for me.
They do.
Oh, well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Is it entertaining?
It's fine. I can do other stuff while I watch it and not feel bad. So
if you need something like that.
Yeah.
If you need to not watch something while watching something,
Love Island is a show for you.
Love Island UK on Netflix.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Marcus, did you have anything?
I do.
Cool.
I saw 2 movies this week. I saw Spider-Man,
Cool.
Home,
Far From Home.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I like a lot of the things they're doing with like a lot of the new characters. It's fun. It's just fun. I felt like it was a little. How do I put this? There were some things where I felt like I wanted them to spend more time on, and it felt like just too fast, and it wasn't put together the way I thought it could have been.
Right.
Other than that, it was a good time. There are some really cool scenes that I liked. One in particular, I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything, but I'd say go see it if you're a fan of like the Marvel movies and you're you kind of just want to have a good time. And then I also saw The Last Black Man in San Francisco, which is the best thing I've seen all year. It's absolutely incredible. I think everyone should go see that movie because it is just a beautiful story about love. It's about love, and it is done in such a unique fashion, a way I've never seen before. The cinematography is absolutely just breathtaking.
Yeah.
With a lot of things they do, the acting is incredible. Great writing. Just go see this wherever you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you saw it. I'm so happy. Yeah. The thing I love about one of the things I love about that movie, and the thing that I've thought about so much, is how that movie feels incredibly grounded and fantastic and weird at the same time. Like, the opening scene of that movie, I mean, the opening 10 minutes of that movie, I was like, okay, this is not going to be the movie I thought it was at all.
100%, yeah.
Because it just opens with that shot of that little girl, and then this isn't spoiling anything. It just opens on this striking shot of this little girl walking down the sidewalk, and then on like the like right near the bay, and then just a man in a hazmat suit walks by, and it's just this like clash of imagery. And then there's a street preacher and these 2 guys very far, like shot very far across the street watching. It's so striking. And but then also there are scenes where it does feel so incredibly grounded, more what I was expecting of like, this is a character piece, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it melds those things in a way, like I feel like other movies have tried that and it always feels wrong. Like it never feels like they can smooth that tone out across those things. And this movie does it like effortlessly. Like it's so, those transitions are beautiful. Like it's so good. Yeah, I love that movie. I love the soundtrack. I've been listening to the soundtrack so much, which I don't normally do, and I love it. But yeah, so that's my recommendation. Listen to Marcus. No, but really. So this week I've gone down this rabbit hole of music documentaries. Because I've watched a lot of biopics lately about musicians, and I hate them. I think biopics about musicians suck ass.
Are there any that you have enjoyed?
I love Love and Mercy, the Brian Wilson one.
Okay. You've mentioned that one before.
Yeah, I think that one's exceptional. There are probably some other ones, but I really hated Bohemian Rhapsody. I haven't seen Rocket Man yet, but the more I hear about it, I'm like, I feel like this still has all the problems that I have with music biopics. So I have a few recommendations for awesome music documentaries that I've been thinking about lately. One, Martin Scorsese just did a Bob Dylan documentary that's on Netflix that is about the Rolling Thunder Revue, which is like this the tours that Bob Dylan was doing in the 70s, and it's really phenomenal. Also, I recently rewatched The Decline of Western Civilization, which is about punk rock. It's basically Penelope Spheres just filmed a bunch of punk bands that were in LA in 1979 and 1980. And then she made 3, actually. The first one is about punk bands. The second one is kind of about hair metal in the 80s and like the business side of music, where you just get the feeling like these guys are all fucking morons who just, it sucks. And then the third one is probably the best one. It was filmed in 1998, and she goes back to LA, and it's just about gutter punks. It's about kids who've been disowned from their families, kids who have been dealt a really shit hand, and she basically just went and hung out with them to the point where they really trust her, and she gets all these interviews with these kids, and you just really, it's such a great documentary just about humans, and also how music was keeping a lot of them alive. Like the community around punk music in the late 90s was the thing that saved these kids' lives initially, but also put them in extreme danger because of the lives they had to lead. So anyways, those are really good. And then the last one I watched was this movie called The Devil and Daniel Johnston.
Is that on Netflix right now?
I don't know if it's on Netflix or not. I watched it on Amazon. I just like rented it. But it's really good. It's about this guy named Daniel Johnston, who was a musician he's still a musician, but like particularly the mid 80s to the early 90s. He was this super underground, off the beaten path musician that like pretty much any cool musician you can think of from that time period loved Daniel Johnston. But he was just this deeply disturbed kid that wrote this awesome music and really influenced a lot of people. And the documentary is just kind of about his life, and is kind of a lot about creativity and mental illness, which actually reminds me a lot of Brian Wilson, like some of the things in his life. And they even mentioned Brian Wilson in the documentary. Like his parents were like, yeah, we read Brian Wilson's autobiography, and that helped us understand what our son was going through and what we needed to do to try to help him. But yeah, it's really good. I just think that stuff's really interesting. I'm not even really a musician. I just love music, and I love hearing that stuff. So those are really great documentaries I've been watching lately that I really like. Justin, did you have any recommendations?
I don't know if it's recommendation. I don't know. I can talk about something.
Okay. What do you got?
I gotta like lean down. I get into my mic right here, so I can't see anybody. There we go. I watched Clockwork Orange this week.
Oh, wow. Okay. Boy.
Yeah, so I haven't seen too many Kubrick films, just a handful of them. And from what I have seen, like, it's definitely a Kubrick film.
Right.
Very much so. I also have not read A Clockwork Orange before, so I kind of went into this not really knowing the subject material at all. And what I've heard from A Clockwork Orange is like, oh, it's really graphic, it's really violent, I've heard all the bad things about it from like almost like a conservative point of view about like you shouldn't read this book because it's a bad book, morally bad or whatever. So watching the movie, and I don't know. I don't know if I can recommend it or not, because I don't even know if I really liked it. I don't know. I was talking to my wife about it, and basically my summary is like, yeah, there's some really bad stuff in it, but it feels very theatrical too. Like, you feel very much aware that everybody's on board with everything, and so like the violence and like there's rape scenes and stuff that just they kind of come across as, like, from my perspective, is not being very strong. I don't know, because of like sort of the theatrical feel to it. It's not super. It didn't feel very visceral, if that makes sense. So the weight of the movie it didn't really hit me as hard. Plus the government themes about like trying to control everything that happens so that they can be reelected, and like sort of this dystopian thing, like that's just kind of day-to-day life now too. So it's just kind of like, it didn't really I've heard this warning before, and we're living this dystopian future now that 40 years have gone by since the film came out. So yeah, I don't know if you have any interest, so I told my wife Gwen that I would recommend watching the movie if she is hesitant about like the violence and stuff that's in the book, because the movie felt less impactful than I think literature is probably going to be.
Okay.
So that's a recommendation. Watch, even though I haven't read the book, watch the movie if you are hesitant about consuming A Clockwork Orange, because I think it's a little bit easier to consume.
Okay.
That's just my guess right now.
Okay. Interesting.
But yeah, we could talk Kubrick sometime.
Yeah, we probably should. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of music documentaries, did you ever see Strange Negotiations?
No.
The David Bazin.
Oh no, I didn't.
They just released.
No, I need to see that.
I really want to watch it.
Yeah, I want to watch that too.
Just wondering if anyone had seen it, if it was good. But you're the only person I know who would
probably
even potentially watch it.
Yeah, I do want to watch that. I'm super interested in that dude. Bizarre life. Did you have any other recommendations or anything, Tyler?
No.
Okay.
I'm still watching the Evangelion, and
cool.
Really slowly, really slowly.
Yeah. Are you liking it still?
Parts of it, yeah.
Okay.
There's like, here's the thing. I mean, like, since I'm not super into anime, I've had to.
We hear that again.
Yeah. I have to
take a shot.
I have to like put aside the things I dislike about it, and just try and dissect the things that like are good about it. And yeah, there's some interesting like relationship dynamics, and which is great because I think it does, out of all the giant fighting robot shit I've seen so far, this has done like the human part of that the best. And I'm not very far in, but what it has explored, there's some interesting concepts, and but there's also some bullshit that is anime bullshit that I in my personal opinion makes it bad. Like makes at least that part of it bad. But yeah, no, I will still continue to watch it.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay.
I only watched that and like things like Chuggington and
which I just barely discovered that today.
You are missing out. If you have a toddler, or if you were a toddler at some point in your life, watch this show about sentient trains, and you'll fucking hate Wilson. That little shit.
All right. Well, on that note,
but Brewster's pretty cool.
On that note, we'll say goodbye until next week. I didn't even note the episodes. We're watching the next 3 episodes of Twin Peaks.
12, 13, 14?
12, 13, 14, yeah. So we'll push on, forge ahead through season 2 of Twin Peaks, and we'll get there eventually. We'll get to the end. We'll all breach for air at some point, and David Lynch's loving embrace will be upon us. But yeah, that's it. So we will see you guys next week. Black Lodge, Black Lodge. You can just sample that if you need.